Vincent, thank you for taking the time on such short notice. Vincent attended a meeting a couple of days ago, and it really helped me understand the amount of misinformation out there in this area of the country. It's great to have Vincent and the emergency management group here, so use him as a resource. And also, these events hopefully give you the information, accurate information, and you can then relay to people and counteract the disingenuous activity that's going on out there. All right, so on with the show. So this morning, what we set up is a conversation about placemaking and the importance of place. You all know that Gaston County has 13 municipalities in it, 12 of which are seated here in the county. And our towns have grown organically over 100 plus years. So people are really, they're intrigued by quality of life and where they can live and raise their families and have a business and also recreate and have a kind of a human scale experience in their downtowns. And Gaston is set up for that, ideally. So what we wanted to do is bring people in today that can help you understand kind of the theory, if you will, behind placemaking, the theory behind development at a lower scale in downtowns, how downtowns are utilized these days for people gathering, more of a social connection. And then we'll end with some practical implementation parts of that. So to start, we've invited Gastonia's native son, Terry Shook, to speak about his 40-plus year experience in this space as an architect and developer. Most of you likely know South End. He was one of the grand poobahs of getting South End going in Charlotte, among a lot of activity across the country. So Terry brings a wealth of knowledge and experience to talk about the importance of place. He's also working with us here in Gastonia on helping develop a strategy for continuing the redevelopment of downtown Gastonia. And Stuart Prophet is joining us. Stuart's representing the Urban Land Institute, which is a long-standing organization supporting smart growth, if you will, but development that is intentional. Stuart also is in the business of development and his day job, but today he's representing ULI. So Stuart, thank you for joining us. And then we have David Day from Cherryville, who many of you probably know David, but he runs their downtown activity and economic development. So we're going to hear, starting sort of high level, what does this look like in theory, and then David can tell you how it's happening on the ground in Cherryville. So I'll kick it off with Terry. Thanks for joining us, Terry.
Thanks, Patrick. So I'm curious, in the room, how many people are native to Gastonia or Gaston County? Okay, good. Well, that's great. So I'm glad I can come back. I think I can trace something like 5 ancestral lines back here before the revolution. So that's what great aunts tell you and all those things. So I feel like I got a lot of Gastonia DNA in my blood. The interesting thing I will tell you, talking about downtown, this was my playground growing up, the main streets. Of course, I didn't go back quite that far, but that's our image of what great downtowns are, right? I do remember the parades very much. And this is a good aerial shot. I love this shot for a number of reasons. First off is that you can see a little white circle. That's Airline Avenue. Back in the day, that was my dad's glazing business. I grew up in that business, 14, worked at it. When I wasn't working, I was hanging out on Main Street. And you'll notice a lot of things in that photo. Things that really aren't there now. That wonderful Southern Railway terminal that was there. For an architect like me, it was a beautiful thing. It was an H.H. Richardson inspired design. You'll notice even it had the little green, the lawn in front of it. You'll notice where the old post office was, and you had connection to Main Street that went straight to that green. You'll even notice along Airline Avenue, there was a level of pedestrian calmness. You had Arlington Hotel, all these things that completed the downtown. Well, of course, what happened was the ditch came in, right? Blew right through that, and it's of course been there ever since. These were conscious decisions made by governments and business people I could go on for hours about this, since you can imagine with that circle being right in the middle of it. But the point is, people and governments can make decisions that are good for economic development. They can make some that are questionable. We're here to talk about ones that are good. Well, Disney got it. I mean, Disney, all these main streets all over the country, though, back in the 60s and the 70s when the ditch was done, were dying all across America due to coming out of the 1950s and suburbanization and what have you. But Disney saw this nostalgia, and he made it a central part of his new Disneyland, because he knew this was a universal thing. People were yearning for these old main streets. Of course, sprawl gave us a lot of things. They gave us suburban office parks. They gave us, things like Franklin Square. I can't find the square in Franklin Square. I have gone there and searched. I know they must be hidden around back somewhere. But, and of course, schools are no longer compact. They're designed like big campuses. And of course, what's happened now, a lot of us work at home. A lot of people work at home. We get a lot of our shopping by Amazon. And of course, the kids don't even want to drive anymore. The whole premise of suburbia is everybody wants to drive a car. Lord, I know I did. I got my driver's license at 8:30 in the morning on my 16th birthday. But a lot of kids don't, right? Now, it's a real changing thing. And I have to tell you that my impressions of Main Street Gastonia really reinforced my career. And for a long time, I actually taught what I'm going to converse a little bit on today in the program at Harvard. Because there's a lot of yearning. It went for 25 years. I thought I got tired of doing it. But there were so many people all around the country that wanted to have this conversation, which is what we facilitated within this. And to show you, we'll talk about how you can make money out of placemaking. And when we talk about placemaking, we're talking about, again, those kinds of places where people feel good in, they want to go, they want to hang out, they want to shop, they want to meet friends there. They want to do a lot of things to live that social convivial life, which you don't get in a shopping center, right? It's just not there. Or an office park, or any other place generally that suburbia gave us. So this is a project many of you might know. Did this early on with Pappas Properties in Crosland. We were fortunate. This is in Huntersville. This is Burkdale Village. Anyone been there? Look at this. All hands go up. Well, that thing has created lots of value for a lot of people. It never lost money. Some of these things did around the country because they didn't attend to the attention to detail placemaking. Burkdale didn't. And one of the most amazing things about Burkdale, it came out of leadership at the citizen level and the governmental level. A mayor, basically, along with other towns up there, said, no, stop a minute. We're not going to be run over by that sprawl. We're going to make sure that we have a place here that's worthy of our kids and grandkids. And they did it. So Burkdale Village, we're proud of it, but at the same time, a lot of it was written into law. They demanded it. And you can see the great economic value is created for both investors and for the community. The other one that was involved in, Patrick mentioned, was South End. Now this was back, South End is one of those things. I'm sure everybody's been there. I won't ask for a show of hands, but the South End was what we call one of those 30-year overnight successes, right? I mean, it started in the mid-90s. I was very much involved in getting that little trolley running. It ran on that little generator up there for about 600 feet when it started. And people said we were crazy. It was the Charlotte Folly. I had all my developer clients say, you're crazy. We don't want to hire you or not anymore. You must, I don't know what happened to you. Did you drop in your head or something? But the truth of the matter is, it sparked the imagination of what this area of South Boulevard, which had to be the most valued area, anywhere. We did what was called charrette. We did designs. We came up with the plan for it. Now that's a plan. I will tell you now, the trolley, of course, led into the blue line, the light rail. All the stops of the blue line are shown on that trolley plan. I mean, this was the seeds of the blue line when the trolley was done. It caused a community conversation. And you'll notice what that upper right-hand side says, a 2-mile economic development impact zone. That's how it was conceived. We knew there was a lot of touchy-feely, emotional things in here that everybody wants, but you have a hard time talking about these things and spending a fair amount of money when you just talk about how good you'll feel. We said, no, this is going to make a lot of people a lot of money and add to the tax base, right? I want to, look at the May 1996. There's a lot of signatures on that a lot of people in this room will recognize, including the future governor. But there are a lot of people signed on to this and said, no, this is a good thing. Let's make it happen. And one of the amazing things about this is that the Charlotte Rail Trail, which has become just the most incredible kind of thing, it was basically an access road in case a train broke down, if somebody had to get off the train and walk out. Most of the stuff on the rail trail came through private donations. Mecklenburg County Parks doesn't have $1 in that thing, to my knowledge. But as people, I know we get money. I mean, I conceived that David Furman, another architect in Charlotte, and Richard Petersheim with land design, we conceived this thing and got it going. And it's been lots of donations, but it makes a big deal. Well, here's the stats at it. How many projects you got down there? So you got to have a couple, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, two. See what I'm saying? I mean, look at this: 13,000 residents, 8,500 apartments, 7.5 million square feet of office and retail. It now overshadows downtown in terms of economic development because it's where the younglings want to go. Now, another one we did, people don't think about this as economic development normally, but we took an old private low-income housing project done back in the 1950s and turned it into one of the hottest neighborhoods in Charlotte. Because we knew that all those younglings that were in South End, once they started meeting each other and started getting married, and all they had to do was get in their car and ride around, and after a day of riding around on a Saturday looking for a nice little bungalow in some of these old streetcar neighborhoods, that they were going to have sticker shock, if they could find one. Then they were going to go to suburbia, and we were going to lose social capital in Charlotte. So we got to create a place. Because all the people at that level they're risk oblivious. A lot of things that scare people that look like me, they don't even care about. They love the city. They love diversity. They love, a variety of cultures. So this project did fantastic. The tax value for Brightwalk now is $100 million. I was told that this week by one of my clients, the developer clients that work with us with the Charlotte Mecklenburg Housing Partnership. We also, at the same time, we said, look, there's this old missile factory over there. If we do our job right, that could pick up. So I did the first vision plan for this thing, funded by the Charlotte Mecklenburg Housing Partnership and the Jeffrey Kern, who owned it at the time, who bought it as industrial space. We said, no. This is not industrial space. This is going to be one of the biggest next things in Charlotte, just like South End. In fact, we called it North End. He added the camp onto it. But it is doing just that. And again, if you haven't been there, it's something to see. Now let's talk about other spaces. Good urban public space. I doubt anybody in the room knows where that is, so I won't waste time. But that is the best urban park in America. That's just not my opinion. That's people who do this thing professionally, manage it. This is Detroit. This is downtown Detroit. It's called Campus Martius. And I did not do it. I wish I had. When I worked for Dan Gilbert there, I did help Dan Gilbert, Quicken Loans and Rocket Mortgage, put together his strategic plan when he acquired all the land, most of it, in that which the Ford family and the pizza guy didn't already own. But he put together all this, and this park brought all kinds of community together. The old song, about 8 Mile, Eminem wrote, well, people north of 8 Mile come into Detroit and they'll hang out at Campus Martius. Okay, let's go to this. This is getting closer to home here. This is Gastonia. An amazing map. Those properties that you see, if you look at the ones that are in the kind of the teal colored green, and you look at the ones in darker green, those are publicly owned land parcels, parking lots primarily, but underdeveloped. I want you to wrap your head around that for a minute. And then you see the red ones are clearly privately owned underdeveloped properties, and then in the pink is surface lots. So you think about opportunity. This kind of map could have been shown in downtown Charlotte about, 20 years ago, 25 years ago. This is a great inventory of property. So when you start to think about what this can mean, in terms of parks, you know, for you guys, it's something to think about. Those parks and what we call the interstitial spaces. Look at these great little alleys up there. That happens to be in a little place called Market Square in Lake Forest, Chicago. These are the kind of things, and you'll notice this, these are not high dollar kind of things necessarily. These are just places that are made where people can access and gather. The other thing I want to talk about, these are organizing principles, what's behind all of these things, is really restoring the public realm to a high level. Disney understood that, but it still, unfortunately, has that Disney flair. He went too far. It's like a great dessert with sugar in it. You get too much sugar in it, you kind of, lean back sometimes. That's downtown Gastonia on the left side. That's Charleston on the right. No Charleston Railway. I had an office there back in the 80s for all the reasons people go there. Never really got any much work out of it after I moved there. Got work before I moved there, but then in Charleston they separate people into Ben Hills and Come Hills. And if you're going to come here, you don't get any work. But we did work on the coast doing other things. But look at that. That old photo of downtown Gastonia has more detail in it than what's in current Charleston, King Street, Main Street. And King Street has a retail trade area of 600 miles. Think about that. Demographers will track their trade area for retail up into Ohio. Not saying we need to get that from Main Street, Gastonia, but just think about the impact of that in terms of place. The other organizing principle that's very important is connecting to your neighborhoods. See, downtown Gastonia is not an isolated event. It's part of the neighborhoods, both Highland neighborhood and the York Chester, because people in the region are going to be coming to both of these places. And it will happen like a tsunami when it happens, with people trying to buy the single families, to build new ones, and also to build townhouses. And the other part of it is, too, as we know, is the cost of everything. See, I think the challenge for Gastonia and Gaston County is lead in the development of attainable urban housing. Usually we talk about attainable as well as affordable housing, and that's the housing authority. Yes, those are important things, but I'm talking about for the workforce. A lot of people are coming into Gaston County to find jobs. They're going to South End and renting Stewart's apartments and everybody else's apartments. At some point, there's going to be a separating out on rent. We're already seeing some rent compression. It is important, if you're going to have this lively place as a community, to take care of your own workforce. And there's some strategies there that can be explored. But I want to throw that out. You're going to hear more about that as life goes by. I'm going to end on this one because I've always wondered about this as a native son, but I've practiced my entire time in Charlotte and done, I'm a big history buff. Like, how did Charlotte and Gastonia grow differently? Well, one thing about it, the textile magnates at the time in Gaston County were pretty insular. They knew they had a good thing. And it wasn't about economic expansion. It wasn't about diversification, just a fact. Charlotte, this is a photograph from 1910. I don't know who those guys are. It's some promotional thing. It looks like some crazy, balloon they stuck their head through, They got their photograph made. Who knows where they were? But what caught my eye was that little flag on the right-hand side, the boosterism. That's always been a part of Charlotte's DNA. Watch Charlotte grow. We need some of that over here. It takes time. Like I said, South End was a 30-year overnight success, right? No, a lot of people gave their time and their energy for that. One of them here to make that happen. We're at that threshold here. It starts now, I think, in Gastonia and Gaston County, because now's your time. Thanks.
Thanks, Terry, Pat. Let's see. So I'm Stuart Prophet. I'm the one of the co-founding principals of Prophet Dixon Partners. We're primarily apartment development firm based in Charlotte and do projects in North Carolina, South Carolina, Tennessee, and I'm also a ULI member. Been active in ULI since about 1999, and I'm currently serving as chair of ULI Charlotte. ULI Charlotte covers the western part of the state, basically Charlotte and west of 85. So I'm happy to be here, happy to see Pat. I met Pat and Terry and Raleigh back when I first moved back to Charlotte in 2005 and worked for Peter Pappas, who Terry mentioned. It's neat to be in the room with you guys. I'm gonna cover some of the placemaking aspects, maybe kind of some nuts and bolts of how to start thinking about an initiative. So let me get organized here. So placemaking initiatives can be powerful tools in enhancing the economic vitality of communities. So like Terry was saying, I think it could really be a growth mindset. It can also be serving the community, allocating resources in a way that increases the vitality for the existing folks. So placemaking brings identity, and it's vital to any real estate development effort, even if you're just building one apartment community within a neighborhood. That's always kind of the forefront of the thought of what you're creating there is how you're going to create place within that community and how you're going to express to the rest of the neighborhood, the environment they're in, that you're vibrant and a place where people can thrive. So creative placemaking incorporates artists, culture, and creative solutions. I think that's kind of the last point on the intro there. So this slide has some principles of creative placemaking. You can keep these in mind as you chart a course and check back on them during the process. And these are established not by me, but by folks that have been doing it much longer than me, probably coming from an article that Terry wrote in ULI magazine, one in the past. But begin with the end in mind. So envision not only what you would like to see, but such as places where the community naturally convenes. Artfully designed buildings and spaces where all feel welcome and enriched, but also what you don't want to see, such as displacement of existing residents or a lack of diversity. The early engagement with the community is critical, like a lot of things, especially artists. So you need to, doing that fosters a sense of ownership, and arts and culture need to be at the core. And to find the arts and culture folks, you have to think beyond murals, and outreach can include visual artists, musicians, photographers, dancers, poets, writers, designers, chefs, media professionals, and other cultural creatives. And those cultural creatives could be, you could find them around social media, creative folks in that realm. So, and to engage with those people, you may want to hire an arts and cultural curator. This role can help integrate arts and cultural influencers in the planning process. We have an art curator for our projects. In the past kind of 5 years or so, we've started to have a healthy budget for art in our communities, and so she leads the allocation of those budgets. And it's murals, it's also sculptural art and paintings. And recently we had a 100-foot long exterior art installation with LED light and steel that Ivan DePena did in Loso, extension of South End. And that piece, I think, contributes positively to the neighborhood's identity in that little sub-district. But the next is mine local art and cultural assets. So what's the community's history and aspirations? What jewels exist in the community? Amplify them. and thereby you foster a sense of pride and authenticity that goes a long way to making the place attractive. Understand and articulate stakeholder benefits. So who are the stakeholders? Is it local businesses? Is it in-town and rural residents? You need to be able to articulate clearly the social and economic benefits of the effort to the stakeholders. So ULI has a lot of good data on this that can help you with that. Form cross-sector partnerships. So that's gonna be, for example, artists, community members, local government, foundations, community organization. It goes back to engaging the community to get a broad-based sense of ownership in the success. So, and we have identify the critical skills needed to deliver on project goals and outcomes. So have the right people on the team. And then another suggestion is to look for early wins to generate excitement, visibility, and buy-in. So you can use pop-up events and installations to draw people in, and community gatherings to get people engaged. And then maintain a long view. So know that from the beginning that the effort won't be over when the construction's complete. It's an ongoing programming and marketing that keeps the community engaged and the place alive and exciting. I mean, that's when I first worked at Pappas Properties, they were still, I don't know if they were still managing Burkdale Village or not, but the amount of, you kind of create that space, the amount of effort in programming that space and having those events was just huge. It was a budgetary thing, and it was leadership and actual people on the ground that were doing that made it what it was. Be open-minded about sources of funding. It can come from unexpected places. If your vision is the right one, is conceived for the right reasons, and provides appropriate stakeholder benefits, then be confident the money will come and persevere. Let's see. So the nuts and bolts of the process, that you have project initiation, you develop a vision, build the team, which is your professionals, the architect, the designers, the artists, creatives, and construction managers who will lead the team, and then the partners, the finance, the community, the arts organizations, etc. And then planning and design, so you get to conduct the design with the architect and the artists, work with the community through the iterations to continue to keep that buy-in and that connection and ownership with community, and develop a financing plan and a construction plan. And then you have the construction process itself, where it's important to have potentially a construction manager to help you kind of achieve the outcome, the timing, and the budget that you'd like. And then ongoing operations, that's continuing the creative placemaking programming. And then this is what I was alluding to before, and the data behind the value that it creates. ULI has a lot of good resources on this. So your government, the benefits and gains in tax revenue, job growth, public safety in the community. You can have economic outcomes that are improved, social outcomes are improved, social cohesion, health outcomes. And then the developers and partners. So you have increased market value, lower turnover rates, faster lease up, and higher community buy-in. So ULI can be a tool if you're thinking about where to begin. You can read some of our past reports and articles from ULI. All of this is available on the website. It's certainly a big topic. Like Terry said, he taught the Harvard program for 25 years because there's just so many people that are interested in it. So there's a lot of resources out there. If you went through all these articles and read those reports, you would be you have a really good foundation for how to start. And And then we also, ULI Charlotte can assist in early stage discussions to help develop effective strategies. We have a TAPS program, that's a technical assistance panel. And so these programs bring together experts in real estate planning and development to provide objective, practical advice on complex land use and development challenges. So ULI Charlotte has a long history of uniting community assets to shape great places, and this is one of the tools that we've used. So for example, in 2022, ULI Charlotte collaborated with the City of Charlotte and community organizations to explore the Albemarle Road Cultural Trail. The trail aims to promote health, equity, mobility, and economic development. And the full report's available on the website. You get a sense of kind of the product, the output. Another example, during my time at PAPS Properties, we sponsored a TAP to study the future of South Park neighborhood, focusing on how the community could shape its next phase of development. And so, a couple days session with experts to come in and study the existing and where good kind of planning and current thought said that we should be going from there. So TAPs typically span 1.5 to 2 days. They feature a panel of experts, and the sponsor provides the location, tours, briefing materials, and goals, and ULI helps refine the objectives and leads the creation of a final report that summarizes the panel's findings and recommendations. That can be helpful. It's an early step in the process. I hope that was helpful. ULI would love to be a resource for y'all as you continue to explore these initiatives.
Good morning. Under my umbrella as the downtown director and the economic development director also falls the Chamber of Commerce, the marketing, the website, the social media, trimming a bush outside my office, so I have many umbrellas. I come from a background of 40 years being a pastor, and so I feel like I need to say, take your hymn books and let's turn to page 5 and sing or whatever this morning. But part of being economic development and downtown manager, I had come from being a pastor. So I didn't know anything except I'd been on the Chamber of Commerce for the City of Cherryville for about 15 years. Served in many areas there. Cherryville Area Ministries as president, redid that program. And city manager said, David, we're hiring a new position for the town. It's required by North Carolina Main Street. You're going to be our new downtown director. He said, I've prayed about it, and this is what God said. And I said, well, I haven't got the text. So call me later. And this was the day before COVID hit. And I was like, working for a city is like working for a church, and I done retired. Y'all drove me crazy. And so anyway, as time progressed, he called, and I finally agreed. I started in July of 2019. 6 months later, they blew up the town, which means we started an $8.4 million downtown revitalization. And come on, David. There we go. So Cherryville started in the June the 7th of 2020, redoing our downtown, which included new water lines, new power lines, new sewer lines, new sidewalks, new bump outs, new streets, took every light pole down, put everything up, and my job was to communicate everything to the community and work with the merchants while being part of the Main Street program, doing strategic plans, trying to plan economic development inside a city that didn't have any streets or sidewalks. And it was fun. We really came a long way. And when I started, I became the chairman of the Main Street program, and this is my Main Street committee. Now, I love these people. They are phenomenal. They are average citizens who work all over the county. They are business owners. They're CEOs of banks. They're artists. They're Jill Pewitt is one of our city council members. Gary Freeman, Brian Dalton, our city manager, is part of this. And we all work together on a strategic plan of everything we do through the North Carolina Main Street program is economic driven. And every time we do a project, whether it's putting a new bush in a bump out. What is the economic driver of redoing that? Now, Miss Sherry, who's right here on the front, is an art teacher. I could have used a little pointer thing, couldn't I? I'm used to an abacus. Anyway, so Miss Sherry loves art. And one day I came in and I got an email that said, your order has been processed. And I was like, what order? Sherry had ordered a $30,000 sculpture to go on the corner of Main and Mountain, and it was 2 huge cherries and stuff. And I was like, no, that's not going to draw people to downtown except to laugh. And so I canceled the order, and then Sherry and I had a long talk, and so and I took her to lunch. We didn't get the cherries. But then from all of this economic driver, she ended up opening an art studio downtown in a business, and we helped her. We're very lucky. So on the left is a straight across the street. Now, I don't know if many of you know Dr. White that's in Cherryville. Dr. White, it works in the Pink Building. Everybody has one of those in your Main Street. Rebecca knows where it's at. But the building was bought and was going to be painted a gray color. And Dr. White, and it was kind of a taupey salmon color, and Dr. White said, no, the building's going to be pink. And the owner and those who said, well, look, Dr. White, we wanted to make it look more professional. So it didn't work so good. Dr. White sat out on the street in a pair of pink shorts and a pink tie and a white shirt and a sign that says, Save the Pink Building. Guess what? He won. And we love Dr. White. But that's what part of the street looked like right in front of my office, and that's what downtown looks like a couple weeks ago. I took that picture. And it was a 19-month process. And the irony was that we were scheduling to have our downtown grand opening on November 1st, because I took pictures. They painted the last stripe in a parking spot. And I stood there and cried, God, well, praise God, it's done. We didn't have to deal with that anymore. And I was planning on this, and we had the big thing, and we had a hurricane come through that night. So we had to cancel and move it, and then they decided to do it on April Fool's Day. So that made it even more fun. But we love this downtown, and I love what it does. The economic growth of the downtown, because people have seen what Cherryville has done to their downtown. This is Stroop Acres, which is going to be out on Highway 150, but right in Cherryville. And there's around 450 houses going to be built there. In the middle of our revitalization, people started seeing what we were doing. And they started calling, and they started looking at land that was available. How many of you have ever ridden through downtown Cherryville? You better all raise your hands. Anyway, Cherryville was like so many of the small downtowns. There's 84 Main Streets, part of the North Carolina Main Street program. And when your major businesses leave, we lost Carolina Freight, we lost the Mills. When those businesses left, people weren't coming to downtown, so we had 54 buildings, and out of the 54 buildings, 32 of them were empty and falling apart. And roofs were caving in. They were pouring water. Pigeons had made it. My grandson calls them Main Street chickens. But they were all in the buildings, and it was looking pretty terrible. And you walk down the street, and like so many other main streets, we had 85 beauty shops and 32, I'm being facetious about that, but everybody wanted to open a thrift store, and you had a lot of those. And that's not an economic driver. But we ended up being very blessed. Another developer came to town, and on the other side of town, on Rickway Road, he's building around 500 houses. So that's 1,000 houses between now and 2028 that's going to be added to the community. That's a lot for a town of 6,500. And I don't know where they come up with the math, but there's supposed to be like 3.2 people. Who had a 0.2 child moving into these houses? So that requires looking at your water system, looking at your sewer system, looking at your power grid, looking at your trash trucks. Can they turn around in these developments? Looking at, can your schools handle, Rebecca, can your schools handle this growth? All of this stuff we had to start putting in place when these people started coming. but also being part of Gaston County economic development. One of the things that we've learned, that I learned, was that when people are looking to open a business in your community, they're coming, a lot of them are coming from overseas. They're not looking to see if you have a Wendy's. They're looking at the housing that's available and the school systems that are available for their children. And they're also looking at what their employees can look like and what can grow there. So we're adding to all of that, and we're trying to make it even better. Right now, Charitable, in part of their growth, is adding a new gym. And we're blessed with a grant to get this new gym. They started a couple months ago. I went down there yesterday. These are pictures at 5 o'clock yesterday, at 4 o'clock. I had to get this email to her before then. We painted the building inside. They've got the electricity on. I went in at 3 o'clock to take the picture, and at 3:05 the electricity came on. So I was able to get some good photos. This is right in the middle, or right beside of our downtown. It's a project that we need. It's one of the things that look for, because your families that live in the community need to have things for their children to do, and they need places to go. So this is going to be a vital asset to our downtown. We were also able to add our new splash pad. Everybody was like, look, they've got a splash pad, we need one. So we got one. And then they didn't like the hours. And then they didn't like that the water wasn't fast enough. And you just smile and say, well, you're a blessing. And you just keep on. And those are the kind of things, because we get people coming from Shelby, and they'll text in there, we're, head to Charitable Splash Pad. And I'll text them back and say, well, come on by the chamber office and I'll give you a bag of goodies. I'm not ashamed to walk out on the street and meet anybody. My office faces Main Street, and it's brought 3 businesses to downtown because I've seen people being nosy, like me. And I walked out, introduced myself. I'm David Day, I'm the downtown director. Welcome to Downtown Cherryville. I don't recognize you because I've never done one of your family's funerals before. How are you? And we talked, and so the Fuzzy Cow was a major business that opened downtown. Then we got a couple more. We have a new restaurant coming called the Five Spur. Johnny Ray's, if you know him over in Falston. Johnny Ray's is opening a steakhouse downtown. We have a very nice gentleman named Patrick O'Leary who has bought 24 business buildings in our downtown and has revitalized them. But Patrick and all of us met with our economic development team, and we realized one of the things that people want is a restaurant, but not many companies have the money to start up a restaurant. So Mr. O'Leary bought the old YMCA building, moved it down the street into another building he bought, did around $3 million worth of work, gave the YMCA of Gaston County a brand new facility with 3 different levels. Their membership went up 200%. Then he went to that building, and now he's revitalizing that building and going to be opening up and could be called Five Spur. And we're hoping to have that open by the sometime early winter. Another thing that happened because of the economic driving of downtown was we were able to get Caramont to build a brand new urgent care. It was on the ugliest block in town, McDonald's, and they bought that property, went in, redone that. It's used all the time. Main Street Urgent Care opened up. It services not only Cherryville, but West Lincoln area, and it has become a big business in town. We're looking at other things for economic drivers for the city as a whole. Gardner Webb was given 42 acres in 1998. This land has sat there forever. I got an economic grant from Electric Cities. We did all these studies and did all this. So we're working with Gaston County EDC and a couple others to possibly get this developed into an industrial park and get it moving on so we can add some industrial buildings. When I left yesterday afternoon, I got a text from Electric City saying, David, we're coming by Cherryville. You don't happen to have a building that has 300,000 square feet, do you? But we built you one. So looking at downtown, you start seeing the revitalization. The lower picture on the left, every town has one of these. That's the Belt Building. This is what it looks like now. And all of these buildings have been completely redone. The Belt Building right here is Piedmont Lithium's corporate office. This is incubator spaces. There's 5 offices in there. For around $450 a month, you get your office space, your air, your heat, your water, your electricity. You get Wi-Fi, you get a conference room, you get a break room, private locks and stuff like that. That building stays packed all the time with people wanting to get their small spaces. We also have a retail space right here in the front called Play It Again Golf. Pickleball has become huge, so we've redone a lot of our parks and added pickleball. And I talked him into carrying pickleball supplies, so now he, besides just use golf equipment, so he's been really busy lately. The Cherry Pit was a building that was completely ready to fall apart. This building, speaking of economic drivers, Cherryville had no place whatsoever that you could go into town, sit down and get a beer. And see, I'm Lutheran now, not Baptist, so I have a beer. And I had been wanting one forever and ever and ever. And so I told them when they hired me, they were worried that I wouldn't want beer in downtown coming from a Baptist background. And I said, well, buy me a Blue Moon and we'll talk about it. So the Cherry Pit, Mr. O'Leary bought that building. And when he got in there, they had to take even 8 inches of dirt out of the floor that was underneath it because of the Main Street chickens that have been living in there for a long time. And so from the floor, from the ground to the roof has been completely redone. The only thing left of that building was the 4 walls that held it up. Everything else is brand new. Even about a $300,000 Irish pub redo of a bar that was put inside. Come on up and have a beverage, I'll take you. It's got a great outdoor seating area with fire pits and stuff, and they stay packed because who knew that people wanted to have a beer in Cherryville? This building right here, whatever. The building on the right there to it just got the windows redone in the front of it. It's going to be opening soon, and we have 2 more new merchants moving into the buildings to the right of it. That whole block was dead completely. Mr. O'Leary bought a lot, opened up the parking, now the YMCA down there, we have the fish box down there, and so that whole area of Main Street has now grown, and instead of being the dead zone, people are wanting to go there. I'm going to try to hurry. We move on fast. One of the ways I use economic growth and economic development for the town is through the social media. Go Gaston has been a phenomenal resource for us because every event that we do in town, every store we open, everything we do, they come up and do a feature, they host it on that thing, and it's broadcast through all of their stuff. And then I broadcast every town in this Gaston County that does an event, we do it. So we share our information. We get people coming to Cherryville who said, I didn't know y'all did this. I seen it on Gaston Go. So we use the county resources a lot. And then the guy that is going to open the new restaurant in town, seen it on Gaston Go of some of the stuff he did, came up and met with me. So you never know what tools you can use to reach out for economic growth. I like Instagram when I can remember the password. City of Cherryville's webpage, I'm over that, so that gets updated about daily. Most towns leave their websites until somebody thinks about it. Or you got, in some of the smaller towns, I'm on it every day, updating it. And it links, people go there to get all of our information. So over the past, since 2014, the City of Cherryville has given out $364,664 in grants to restoration of our buildings. That's a lot of money. And if you come in and buy a building, we can give you $5,000 for your roof, for heating, $5,000 for heating and air, $3,000 for each facade that you have, and $3,000 for the interior. This is what the old Bell building looked like, and that's what it looks like now. So we have seen great growth and bringing others in. When I started in 2019, I read a Facebook post. The guy said, hey, I'm going out and looking at Christmas lights tonight. And I knew the guy. So he went to McAdamsville, took pictures. He went to Forest City, took pictures, both of them beautiful. And then on there he said, I might as well throw a Cherryville one in. It was a pole with a wreath on it. I was like, oh no, that is not happening. And there was nothing to do between Shelby Forest City and McAdamsville. I mean, there was not a, I mean, there's other, not other stuff to do, but there was not a lot of Christmas destinations in some areas, and I was like, I'm gonna change that. So I went to city council. I got them to pay $22,000 for that. Well, don't shoot. I get like 400 people a month up there getting their picture taken in there. And then they put that on Facebook, and it says Downtown Cherryville, free marketing. Okay? Christmas cards mailed out all over the place. Mayor comes up there and gets his Christmas card made every year. The mayor does. Rebecca, I've seen you get pictures made in it. So, I mean, it's just little things. I got Forest Fabs, I designed this, got Forest Fabricators, one of our manufacturers down the street, to build me 10 of those. We put them in the bump outs, just put some Walmart lights on them. You don't have to spend $10,000 on the tree, but it really does. But this is what downtown looks like. And I'm sorry my camera's so blurry, but it was a satellite iPhone. But that's what it looks like now when you drive through Main Street. And so that gives you a little bit of our economic drivers. That is something, why did we do that? Because it brings over 400 cars a night to ride down through our streets from 47. And they get out, they walk to our stores, they walk to our windows, and they shop. What is the economic driver of these projects that we do? Everything is an economic driver. Our murals, our money that we spend on tables, redoing our parks, everything that you talked about, I'm over that stuff. So it's art, design, parks, recreation, all of that stuff for downtown. And if you put those things into your placemakers, into your small towns, you get people walking up that drive from Mooresville, because I had PBS, they did 3 specials on Cherryville. And I got them to come up and do that. And then Queen City News, I got them to come up in April, and they did a small town for the city of Cherryville. We were on there arguing over if it was Cherryville. And then I gave them the musical information and made them sound stupid. But the mayor says, it's Cherryville, and he writes my check, so we pronounce it Cherryville. No. Mayor pays my bill, it gets check, it's Cherryville. Anyway, our theme is Cherryville, we're life blossoms. And our flowers downtown, everything we do is to bring people to downtown, to Cherryville, to help our city grow, help our merchants. I meet with our merchants every Wednesday. I walk through downtown Cherryville, I'll greet every one of our merchants. I go by and say, how are you? I take about 3 hours, I talk to them, I know what they're going through. I just had an economic study done by the state of North Carolina on called Placer IE. So when the guy said, there, I don't need to be open past 6. I'm going to show him, as of last week, there was 215 people walking through uptown, and he missed that. And I was like, dude, you need to be open to 7 at least. So we love our merchants, but I love my town. And I love being in Gastonia because I'm from Burke County. And I like having roads and stuff, and we didn't have that over there. But thank you very much for having me this morning. Come to Cherryville, I'll buy you something at the Cherry Pit.
All right, now we finished up with Dave. Never a dull moment. And I hope what you saw is there's a lot of intentionality that goes into planning for cities and the life of cities. And it's a long-term proposition, but it's the daily activity that David talked about that makes it work. So that's what we've engaged Terry to help us here, along with Christy in the county, for how can we have activity in Gastonia, for instance. And it isn't about the plan. You have to have a plan, an approach to what you're going to do, but it's the implementation and it's the details that matter. And I love the pictures about a planter or a new facade, because people react to design subconsciously. And I think what we're going for here is people walking away and say, that really felt great. They can't explain it. They don't know that the proportions of the windows were just so, but it feels right. So we're talking about the human scale, the way people are attracted to to place because there's something that draws them. Could be a park, could be the art, could be all of that. So incredible opportunity today to listen to these three about the theory and then the practice.